The ancient ocean, where no land was found, and only darkness stretched for eternity. In the depth, the ocean stirred, the formless being made physical. Eyes opening for the first time and seeing existence in its most primordial stage. As fresh water mixed with these depths, existence would come to be. But in this timeless moment, there was nothing. No moon, no sun, no stars of night. Just darkness. Just silence. Yet, to the being that opened its eyes, which had been closed for both no time and all time, something was waiting. More than the fresh well of groundwater that she mingled with, more than her own desire for creation, for children, for offspring of life. Something starved, a personification of the hunger of that ravenous sea, that emptiness before existence. A scaly form that dwarfed her own, eyes that lingered in the shadow of the darkness. A behemoth with more mouths than anything ever, a beast with more eyes than grains of sand, a many-jointed, many-toothed beast that raised its eyes to meet her, awakened in that same primordial instant yet eternity as her. I hunger. Words resounded through the waves, boiling it. A rumble akin to thunder which had yet to be made, a deep, throaty bellow that comes from a starving soul. She felt it across her breast, an impact, a sensation, one she had never felt and always felt, a divine devourer, an opposite to her maternal instincts, a destroyer to match her creative soul, the noise that would drive her in the not-too-distant future to lose her husband, to ragtag children, and her own corporeal form to the anger that comes with it. "There is no food here," she replied, her words resounding through the deep sea. The colossus before her feeling the pressure which she brung with those words, a maker speaking to creation with a potency befitting of such a rank. Its eyes twisted to her, though, deep in their crimson color. Another rumble escaped as it thrashed through the darkness. It seemingly had no definitive end, merely teeth and eyes, merely hunger. In time, a culture would call it Cipactli, crocodile, the devouring bear of what would be the ever-hungry earth on which they lived, and she, the ancient sea itself, Tiamat, a conflated creation goddess of many a different origin and form, yet powerful all the same. But here, it was divine hunger and divine creation, meeting in the domain of the primordial nothingness. I hunger. The thrashing beast bellowed once more, snapping at her with a vicious intent, a snap resounding through the depths, a cavity shattering through the primordial sea as it went for a great bite, its first bite. From that cavity, a sweeping of hands, a gale of wind being pushed forward, a gale so potent that even the waves beyond were churned into chaos. The mother struck out with her full fervor at the beast which was before her. As it thrashed, a limb came through the depths, its hungry maw snapping. To her side it clamped down upon divine flesh. The water around them gained a crimson hue as it pulled away, flesh seeping into the infinity around them, carried in frothy bubbles and twisting currents. It was not a familiar sensation she felt, but it was pain, a tinge that ran from her side to her mind, a flagrant alarm. She knew there was going to be pain coming. Such was the blessing of both instant and eternal time, but it still caused her to recoil. There was no instinct to grab at the injury, though. Instead, she held her hands forward. From it, an arrow that pierced the depths and crossed at the maw, which still bore her flesh. A ripple left the sea as the still tumbling Cipactli took hit from great Tiamat. The mouth which bore the flesh had been pierced clean through, a torrent of crimson being sent from it into the torrent of the water about itself. It bubbled backwards, further carried from the momentum of Tiamat's wrath. Before her, another limb and another maw, seemingly to fill her field of view, eyes upon eyes looking at her with wrath and frustration. A meal was not supposed to resist the overwhelming might it possessed. This maw lunged forward at her, teeth gleaming in the darkness, trying to prey upon her yet again. But as with its initial charge, the maw was forced back by a power unknown to God, a great gale that hurled its titanic form away from the goddess and across the dark sea in which they battled. Coiling upon itself, it looked forward to find the resplendent Tiamat, floating, arms extending out to her sides in the depths, as natural as itself in a far less suited form on her terrain. Yet, most frightening was the movement of her mouth and the words that were leaving it. Come, O winds of hatred and remorse, drawers of the chariots of the dead, billow and draw down that which rides in the darkness. Come, answer the call of your forebearer, maker of wind and sky. From her lips, an ancient incantation, from beyond this place, something she called which had yet to be made, the winds which would turn against her in the future, the foul winds of the storm, though yet to be called either wind or storm. Through the depths they blew, carving cavities into the thick waters of creation, chasing through toward a beast that was unrivaled aggression in its tumult. Eyes upon eyes it looked forward, mouth upon mouth it beckoned. From its belly came gales of breath just the same, clouds of fog and billows of steam, like the elations of the earth itself, the nature of the crocodile, carrier of the clouds and billower of the earth's breath. Winds clashed and swept together, churning the sea further, bubbles rising and twisting as the wind soared through the depths. The pair and their blood being swept into a bloody whirling pool in this primordial sea, its manifestation and first predator drawn into conflict of their own divine power. Through the bubbles, the mouths snapped about their target, Tiamat, who floated about them painless, having experienced the pain which they bore. Hunger failed to be satisfied amid the countless bubbles of the depth, leering eyes blinded by the own froth of its attack and the ancient spells that had been made manifest. Tiamat found herself tossed in the sea, but it felt as natural to her as herself. Body moving with the way of water, anger yet to cloud her mind, the pain of loss yet to harden her heart, desire for revenge yet to cause her to lash in insanity. Despite the chaos, it was quiet. Then came the beast's main maw, tearing through the whirlpool, gaping, cavernous, all-consuming, waves breaking, the darkness about pouring in as the monster clamped down upon its divine meal. Twice the maw was closed, the water being parted by its sheer strength in a strike, a carving arc stretching outward into the infinity of this dark ancient sea. Then, all was silent again. The waters filled back what had been displaced. The darkness filled back to where it belonged, vacuum losing its hold and creation being forced to the back of reality, the foreign concept of hunger being satisfied. Cipactli loomed in the silence, its many maws shut and its eyes fulfilled as hunger took a respite, desire for bloodshed being disposed of in favor of digesting that which it had just snagged, the first and final victorious meal. Without a mother, there would be no creation. Just darkness, just the sea, just the satisfaction of the first and last supper, just Cipactli. Yet, something in its core resounded, words muffled by its gargantuan frame, but all the same, resounding. An incantation, the first incantation, that which predated the world, which predated all, but also existed alongside all. The words used at the beginning of the tale which sparked history, a certain history, but a history none the less. Enuma Elish. Cipactli knew not what happened, just that it was no longer filled. In fact, it felt hollow. Crimson rose around it as mouths were forced open, pouring claret into the sea. Eyes forced wide with shock and awe. For the first time it saw this form, resplendent and gilded, not as prey, but as what she was. The sea itself, primordial creation, the birthplace of life and the cradle of divinity. A look on her face of victory. Something that was predetermined before there was such a thing as time or determination. Certainly, Cipactli would go on to steal a leg from the smoking mirror. That was an accomplishment. Just not to her. She whose mingling made things, whose children illumine the skies, and whose body would form the dome of the very heavens. She, the mother of gods and demons alike. She, one of the two things from before existed. The primordial current, past, and future. Tiamat. Fear. Something that it had never experienced before filled it. The crocodile, realizing its prey would be too laborious and dangerous to think of continuing the hunt, lunged backwards into the inky darkness, skirting away in the froth of crimson and blackness, to hunt another meal and be the basis for the world. As always, thanks for watching.